Like that's an entry level job description. You
Yeah, that makes sense. So whenever somebody comes to you to build that personal brand, what kind of process do you go through them in helping them understand what's relevant to them whenever they're trying to present their personal brand?
hmm The first thing to know when you're starting to create your personal brand is you need to know kind of what those goals are, like your career clarity, where you want your career to go, what your next step is. That's super important first step before you can really create an effective personal brand. And so once people have a little bit of clarity, I speak with them. I spend an hour with them to get to know their background, to talk about their goals, what jobs they're interested in applying for. And then we go through their previous experience and talk about the different skills and the accomplishments that they've done in those roles that reflect towards the jobs that they're looking to now. And then those are the things you really want to highlight. So, like, for example, if you're looking at someone who's in an entry level position, they had like a couple experiences entry level, but now they're looking at that next stage. You don't want to write your resume. You don't want to be talking about or sending the message about all the entry level tasks you did. Like
Yeah.
I've read so many resumes that say like assisted my supervisor as needed. Like that's an entry level job description. You do not need to include that. So just leveling up the language so that it meets the expectations of the person who's going to be hiring for that next stage in your career.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So recently I interviewed for a portfolio type management position within my organization, and I was looking back at my first two roles. And if you looked at my first two roles on my resume, from before I made this refresh, you would have seen things like coordinated this or assisted project manager with this. And then now what it is it's all focused on all the things that I led in those capacities. And
Mm-hmm.
it was me doing the same things, but it's kind of a different lens because when you're in it, I guess you're like, yeah, I was assisting this project manager, but really, I was managing all communication flow. I was not, yes, I was an
Mm-hmm.
assistant to this person. They were the lead for the overall project, but what did I manage, right? That's is kind of what you're describing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and sometimes that's so hard for us to see for ourselves, right?
Yeah,
Because you're like, I just go to work. I talk to a lot of people who are like, well, I just go to work and do my job. Like, there's not really anything exciting that happens. But
yeah,
that's not how an outside person is going to see it, right? They're
yeah.
going to see maybe your day to day is something really interesting to them. And so, like, that's what a third party can sometimes help draw out is some of those experiences and those accomplishments that maybe you consider to be everyday mundane, but the person who's reading your resume would think that's actually really interesting and would want you to be able to do that for their company.
Thank you so much for watching this segment of the Engineering Success Podcast. If you liked it, make sure to check out the other videos down below that are recommended to you. And if you really like the podcast, make sure to subscribe right down there in the middle. Really appreciate it. It's free to you and helps us a lot out. And last but not least, the best way to help the show grow is to comment down below. So leave your comment if you have any thoughts about this segment. Thanks.
I ain't chasing payments, still playing in the basement while I'm working on arrangements. They heard the kid in 50 countries, thank God that's amazing. But I'd rather thank Spotify, they put me on the station.